For me, there's something chilling about this. For me, there's something even frustrating about this. So let me attempt to articulate. It was about 6 years ago that I began to comment more and more. And I've never really reached a lot of people, so I've never really gotten a lot of response to some of these things, but a lot of, eye rolling. Well, there Alex goes again with his conspiracy theories. But I have always brought up the Russian element within the alternative media. And I believe that when the mainstream media brought it out, and kind of redirected it to election manipulation, it's like a turd in the punch bowl analogy. There is truth in foreign governments and Russian influence in our own affairs. And I've been saying for many years that I believe that Russia is a part of this global system, and RT is involved in co opting the American people. Now it's coming out, but they've got a program running that anyone being critical of Trump is the deep state, that all these are deep state operations, that there is no legitimacy to it. Even more so, as the PSYOPs continues with Russia's help, that Russia is outside the New World Order. And a lot of the fake news that has come out in recent years, I have always suspected of being from Russia or from within our own government. But I've seen in particular a campaign to promote Russia and Putin. And it seems very unnatural. It's always seemed very unnatural for, revolutionary types, patriots to be fans of politicians from foreign nation states. That just seems backwards, whatever the nation state is. So I've watched this build and I've watched this build and I've watched this build. So I want to start this podcast as a reminder that I was discussing this from an unpopular perspective before Trump was even on the scene. I was discussing this before it was even Barack Obama's second term. It was during Obama's first term. So the Russian influence over elements of the alternative media has been going on for a long, long time. And so there are people out there that have programmed themselves to believe that every report about this is false. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen Facebook, and I'm going to leave some links down below. You can look at my channel and what I was discussing a couple years ago about the fake news on the web as a psyops, and it was pretty big, pretty profound. And I really started talking about this stuff with the Bundy situation, the Bundy psyops. Okay, so there's a variety of different things that I've noticed over the years. Whatdoesitmean.com, other websites pushing fake news. So my dialogue about the deliberate disinformation goes back at least 2010, 2011, speeding up around 2012, 2013. By the fall of 2013, I started warning people that there seemed to be an annual, biannual period of freak us out, kind of like David Mean and his whole Planet X Nibiru. Oh, the Russians are way into promoting the Nibiru Planet X stuff. I have literally, from inside the alternative media, seen their influence over some of the top figures in the alternative media. Okay, some of us have been into the stuff for years, since 9/11. And so I'm 37 now. I got into this stuff in my early 20s, although I've always questioned my reality. So you could say that I was born for this. So 9/11 happened. I woke up to a lot of things, a lot of things. And I don't talk about everything that I have an interest in on this YouTube channel. There's actually some things that I keep to myself. And now there's going to be some things that are only going to be shared on demand. But in general, I am working to expand my dialogue and to share my view without holding back. Sometimes I do. Social persecution is a real deal, and I've always faced resistance when I talk to other people in alternative media about a Russian influence. I've always felt it. There's even people that have trolled me with racism that have called themselves white man. And I've always asked myself, why would, I mean, even if someone is a Nazi, why just call yourself white American man or white American male? It does, it does seem that there has been a lot of interference on the troll side to make things even seem more racist than they are. Now, mind you, there are people that are influenced by the internet, but there has been a number of obvious attempts um, to direct the consciousness. And we could see it now with Facebook, Google, and YouTube having to testify before the Senate with money that they took from the Russians to influence the algorithm. So the very thing that I suspected, right, and brought to this channel, speculations, now it's come out that that's exactly what happened. Now I take a deep breath and I get a little flustered because for me, that's a pretty big confirmation. But no one has noticed that I called it. I haven't heard from anyone that's gone, there was actually a friend that I saw and she's like, that's interesting that all this stuff's coming out. And yet you and I were discussing this stuff just last week. My friend Trish, she helped me get some supplies here in town. And we were discussing, and she's of Native American origin. And her children are facing more discrimination in some cases in school and have gone through certain things. And she was discussing how since Trump and a lot of this internet disinformation on Facebook, this community, this small town, has changed. Okay. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that you have like small town American communities, right, where they say, oh, we don't want to talk about politics, we don't want to be like affected. But if they're on Facebook and their kids got a smartphone, right, and they're on these major websites, it doesn't matter if politics isn't their interest. There will be special interest paying to make sure they see that article claiming, for example, that there's an Islamic invasion. And over time, it will create their reality for them. We're now 16, 17 years in since 9/11. And there's a whole new generation that has been groomed to hate and to not know about the destabilization of these other regions, but to be born into a reality where a big part of their incarnation in America is being told that other people are trying to climb over the wall to literally slit their throat. And that creates a particular psychology. And over time, that collective can be turned into a collective monstrous force of destruction. That is where we sit. Of course, it's all being done to hurt America. It's all being done to hurt America. Of course, I was at the hospital, and on the screen there was the Donald Trump speech about Iran. And we see the build up to that and the problems that that could bring to our nation and Iranian Americans, other Americans. So let me reel this back here. Let me reel this back. I've brought to you stories that no one else was covering, perspectives that people might have thought was a little bit fringe, where I showed you, say, a Facebook profile that was fake, that was linking us to a YouTube video that was promoted by Facebook, where they're saying that this particular Islamic community, yada yada yada, in Michigan, was trying to invade and or something, force everyone into the hijab, something extreme. When in reality, it's a non-violent Middle Eastern community or Islamic community that's minding their own business. And the video that I played had a robot voice, a robot voice. It wasn't even a real human voice. The amount of views in that video, 500,000. So while Facebook and Google and YouTube have been claiming they've been demonetizing independent content creators to fight extremism, that's a complete lie. And I said that as well last year as we were going through the adpocalypse. It's a false flag because they are promoting the worst of the worst. And the things that I said, the things that I claimed to you, have been confirmed. They've been confirmed. Now, YouTube, with what it's done with demonetization in the last year, I mean, to give you more detail, some of you are like wondering, what? The answer back. Here's what you're not missing. Here's what you're missing. There are videos that I have created that others have created already that did really well with maybe 50,000 views, and maybe that did something for us. Maybe provided a couple extra dollars per month. A lot of those videos that were doing well were demonetized. Some people shared the perspective that they went after the really high performing, and I noticed this when I would get videos above 1,000 or 2,000. starting a few years ago, they would be demonetized by the machine. So there's been some sort of a default to punish at random the independent media when they create videos that reach a certain point. And then they added a new rule saying that a human won't review what the bot did unless you get 1,000 views. Even if some of you may see me as a channel that has a fair amount of subscribers, the view count is between 100 and 200 or 300. Meaning, if it's demonetized, if it doesn't have 1,000, a human, for the most part, with some exceptions, isn't going to take a look at it. That's what's cut my income in half. Am I promoting extremism? No. But YouTube has set up a system. Sure, they'll allow some monetization, but we're getting far less views. It's not just about whether or not there's ads on the videos, it's whether people are actually seeing the videos that are subscribed to the channel. There are 13,000 subscribers to this channel. Where are the views? And then other people are saying the exact same thing. Other YouTubers that have a similar amount or another amount per se, they're reporting similar issues with the algorithm. So reeling this back in, the point of all that, it's frustrating, but I've sent other videos that I'm going to work on writing it out, and I'm going to continue making videos on YouTube. But this is also why I created my on-demand channel. So if things get really, really crazy, I'm not going to stop creating content. I'm going to encourage people to support my other platform if something like this were to go down or continue to go downhill. The point of all this is they created the problem. This is problem, reaction, solution. Okay, so there's a countless amount of money that YouTube and Facebook has taken from the Russians and other special interests to promote extremist videos while punishing the left and right independent content creator. There are people out there in the alternative media that are acting like babies and lying to their audience. And they're saying that solely being a Trump supporter, white, conservative Christian makes you a target. There are other people out there as well. They're losing AdSense. When I see these people talk about how they're a victim being a Trump supporter and they have 500,000 subscribers, I don't see that as being a victim. Do you? Okay. I don't see making tens of thousands of dollars or however much he or she is making off YouTube. And at one point, they were making that daily. I don't know how that makes them a victim. The victim consciousness of some of these Americans that don't know what it's like to be under attack or to have their communities bombed and pillaged. The spoiled brat behavior of some of the top YouTubers is almost beyond my ability to properly respond to, but it's over the top. That will be said. They don't even know how they've had it so good for so long, and they have manipulated the system. And I'll be honest with you, there's certain people out there that I do believe are Russian agents. I don't believe in calling them out by name. But looking at their entire career on YouTube since their first video has always been about promoting the Russian-led world order or promoting fear of Russia, but from a perspective of, oh, we've got a kowtow, or from the perspective of all the evil in the world has come from the United States. And for those that have actually looked at the world history, they can see Russia's crimes. They can actually see, this is where Joel Skousen, this morning I was listening to Joel Skousen and Art Bell in 2004. And he's talking about how the alleged weapons of mass destruction ended up being taken out of Iraq into Syria and or with Russia's help or to Russia. And just a lot of things missing with regards to how the U.S. and Russia have had their Cold War, but they have participated in so many ways behind the scenes. And see, that's what's happening here. we literally have years and years of Russian involvement in the alternative media, and the U.S. government hasn't actually done anything to stop it. That's the perspective people are. They have a cooperation, and the United States is destabilizing in many ways around the world, areas, communities, countries. without China or Russia really stepping up to the plate and saying, no, enough is enough to the United States. See, what we're going to see here with this conflict isn't a real conflict over who controls the world order. It's a fabricated conflict to create blood, to spill blood and depopulate. That's the darkness of what we're walking into. It's more serious than what anyone will let on in the alternative media. They just keep playing up this idea of a genuine war. When in reality, all of these players, all of these leaders are sitting on the same side of the table. I don't want to get crude here with hand job jokes, but the point needs to be made clear. These are close allies, and they are serving really another hidden hand that isn't on TV. They've got us to focus on the Rothschild and the Rockefeller and a particular conspiracy worldview, Western New World Order versus the saviors from Russia that are outside the Rothschild bank. This is disinformation. They've seen how conspiracy theory has taken off, and they've played a huge role in redirecting for most of the time that I've been involved in the alternative media, even before. This has been going on for a long, long time. So there could be people like Alex Jones, that may emerge, especially after 9/11, with a whole lot of good information. And they may be the only one to be that one with a megaphone that's traveling from city to city, that is really yelling at cops and yelling at the ivory towers, and we're not going to be your slaves anymore, right? And then we can look back and go, oh my God, that wasn't an accident. He was literally out there after 9/11 saying the right things. We see his literally pitching and batting for the establishment now, and it makes so much sense why they, with Google's help, made him #1 worldwide on the internet with regards to the supposed voice of the resistance. This is a massive psyops. It's not a psyops that I noticed early on, but it's a psyops that I noticed later, and especially after 2012, I really woke up. Now, I'm chilled. I'm chilled seeing how I kind of foresaw this with Russia. And if you haven't seen Fourth Horse Rising and other videos of mine discussing World War III in the 2020s and what I think is coming, I would recommend you do that. But it makes sense that the United States would allow RT to set up outside Washington, D.C. They would literally create their honey trap and create a witch hunt and even punish Democrat websites, left-leaning websites like Alternet, punishing other websites, their list of 200, which turned into the list of 400. So they never really went after the Russian propaganda. They went after American websites that happened to take the bait. You follow? I know most of you are following me. They literally set up a foreign propaganda network in the United States, and all was normal. Hey, you have Alex Jones, RT, and then you have CNN and Fox News. Pick your network. NBC, OPB, Amy Goodman. Pick your voice of reason. And it all seemed quite normal and natural. Of course, as RT was whining and dining, right? Abby Martin, Adam Kokesh, and then, of course, turning them, if you will. Of course, Abby Martin knows things that she won't speak of. Adam Kokesh may know things, but they are not interested in exposing RT, and that part is obvious. Nor are there others. Nor are they others that have really spilt the beans about working for Alex Jones. So when you deal with these individuals' personalities, we have these confidentiality agreements, and you don't see like Liz Wall give a deep analysis on life behind this Russian intelligence media propaganda arm, you ought to be alarmed because there's fear there. Those people live in a state of fear, either ex-Alex Jones employees or those that have worked for RT. That's at another level. And so people are kind of taught this CIA boogeyman behind it all conspiracy. And these arguments, just like fringe 9/11 conspiracy theories, I didn't say there's not more to know about 9/11. I'm saying some people just like to debate about how buildings fell and Judy Wood theories. And they like to keep it fringe instead of keeping it on the solid facts. So, bringing this full circle, free speech, a world wide web, anything goes. Anything goes, baby. Anything goes. It's like, hey, let's have some free love. Let's not talk about the STDs. Let's not talk about the responsibility that comes with sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about, I mean, it's kind of like, hey, let's start merging our minds and being influenced by all these articles online. And it seemed really abstract. And ooh, anything not the Western mainstream media was the truth. Ooh, down with the Western mainstream media. And then up we see the rise of RT, Alex Jones, and other purveyors of disinformation on the internet that aren't as high profile as Alex Jones, but very suspicious indeed. And then, of course, you have the crowd of the quote, useful idiots. Somehow they can find it in their mind to question 9/11, which is something worth questioning. But then to see Russia, China, and other governments as governments that stand outside that lie. No, they don't stand outside that lie. Not when China funds our wars, not when Russia kept its mouth silent as the United States. See, the time for Russia to speak was after 9/11, if Russia was opposed to a Western New World Order. But see, Russia has been a part of this. They've been a part of the destabilization of Afghanistan and the genocide of the Afghan people. You knew this, right? Of course, this is something that they would prefer that we not talk about. You know, I brought up the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. There's a reason why I did an interview with AMTV, and that interview was not shown. And I've shown clips of it. There's a reason it's not on that channel. There's a reason why the owner of AMTV would not show you what I said. I don't even have the other 45 minutes. I talked about what the Russians did to Afghanistan. Okay. And for whatever reason, someone felt very uncomfortable with the information that I was dropping. And so when I talk about things like this, and I see the doors closed in my face, even from RT. See, Liz Wall didn't know I was blacklisted, but Liz Wall offered to have me on RT in 2012. She saw my interview with Tom Horn regarding transhumanism. So the topic would be like a 15-minute segment on man and machine merging. But a producer intervened and canceled the interview. And the way that Liz Wall was giving several excuses uh, led me to the understanding that I was not really being told the real reason why the interview was being canceled. That Liz Wall was just making up a story when she said, it's been changed. I got to go cover something else. Do you want to talk about campaign finance reform? Completely, like, not even in my genre of topics. Campaign finance reform? I don't know. Find a Democrat for that. Is that a joke? You know, so for years I've had a video up from Leon Ligon, who was on my show in 2008, well, 2007, 8, and 11. And he had a reoccurring dream or vision of Russia and China counterattacking the United States and invading. And I began to say a couple years ago, due to this pattern that we have of major wars correlated with major sunspot counts, which is why you should check out my PDF link down below. Or if you're an on demand subscriber, that's there for free. Just go check it out there at outsidethebox.vhx.tv. Or you can check out for free right now articles. You can do your own research, type in solar cycles, cycles of war, or see my previous videos. So we have this period around 9/11, solar peak. We have the events of 2013, 14, and 15, and the wars that Obama started before he left office, and the things that are happening right now, the unrest taking place in the United States, the civil unrest, correlated with this last solar cycle as we go into solar minimum. But see, the 2020s is a period in time in which we could see a lot of these things pop off with North Korea, with Iran, China's Navy will be at a much greater force as well as numbers of Navy vessels with the ability for a massive operation across the planet. And you know what I'm thinking about. So when I see the disinformation to create a breakdown within the United States, unrest, and now this evidence is coming out that this was not just in my head, this is real. And never mind the fact they've created this whole thing to where people don't trust any news anymore. Anything that they have been programmed, right, to be opposed to, i.e., mainstream media, they just call fake news. So people will call things fake news whether they want to believe it or not. That is not how reality works. We don't just get to call something real or not if we want to call it real or not. I mean, sure, we can create our reality to a certain degree, but this is just ridiculous. That's fake, that's real. Notice how many people question the Las Vegas shooting, but never said a word about Orlando. Never said a word about the alleged Muslim attack in San Bernardino, California. Notice that tunnel vision, tunnel vision, tunnel vision. This is not a very conscious society that's really able to see the trends and how easy it is. See, once they got them hooked on face crack, and they sat there and admitted to them that they were manipulating their emotions, right? Then they came around and then manipulated the false idea of a invasion of those that would force the hijab on entire communities. And this became reality. This became reality in their minds, but not in physical. And so it just came out that one of the specific things that the propaganda was putting out, uh, they organized, the Russians organized a protest outside a mosque in Texas. There's certain allegations made about the mosque or just about Muslims in general, leading to that particular mosque being targeted. And so you literally had a group of Texans. One of them was led by a guy named John. His last name slips me. But John was one of the main players in the Oregon Bundy psyops. Daddy made an oath. That's right. He was featured on a particular YouTube channel, 500,000 views. And John Ritzmeyer had just got done harassing a mosque. Was he crying to his dad? I'm sorry, dad. I can't spend Saturday with you. Take you apart. I gotta yell at these Muslims. Tell them go back home, towelhead. I'm sorry. Daddy made an oath. For those that don't know, type in John Ritzmeyer suicide video. He's basically doing a call to action for other Americans. At that moment, I knew he was a part of a psyops. I knew that John was a part of a psyops. Now, I don't know in the case of John whether or not he received money from special interests. Certainly, John seemed to be serving the federal government. So did Pete Santilli. There's a number of characters in the Burns thing that appear to be players. And it seemed that they were baiting other Americans to Oregon for a potential bloodbath with the government. And it seemed by and large, Americans didn't take the bait, but they were trolling that other people should go up there and support because they're playing armchair intellectual, right? Armchair quarterback, armchair revolutionary. But they weren't going up to that hill, but they were attacking me and any person calling it a psyops. But the question is, were some of those trolls non-Americans posing as Americans? So the very same thing that I've wondered and questioned for years and years and years. Are we really dealing with Americans? Are we really dealing with Russians? It's actually coming out that we actually have been dealing with international trolls, international fake news agencies, social media giants taking the money and admitting it to your face. So, ladies and gentlemen, whether you consider yourself Democrat or Republican, you need to wake up. They work both sides of a conflict. And obviously, Russia has been working both sides on Facebook. I mean, they even had pro Black Lives Matter um, bloggers and trolls, not just the anti Black Lives Matter. And that's something that people really aren't understanding, nor are they really understand this is bigger than Putin and Russia. Even if they have Russian trolls engaging in the digital foot soldier work, it doesn't mean that it's really for Russia to destabilize America, only that they're using Russians and other trolls from our own country as well as probably from Israel. In the end, this is serving the real global elite. And at some point, people in the alternative media ought to be asking themselves who or what is running this global government. Right now, people aren't doing that. They have effectively severed the consciousness of many Americans to think the global government scheme is Anglo-Saxon Western Americana all the way. And this fallacy seems to really be part of the blueprint to bring America into the real New World Order, involving Russia at the head of the building of this New World Order. And so few people seem to be paying attention.